Hi everyone, welcome back to Atrium Research's YouTube channel. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Alberto Orozco, the CEO of Capitan Silver Corp, which trades on the TSXV under the symbol CAPT. We currently cover Capitan with research and have a buy rating and $2.40 per share target price on the company. Alberto, it's been a handful of months since we last caught up. The stock has been doing great. You guys have been reporting a series of strong drill results, which we'll talk about today. But good to have you here and looking forward to getting into this.
Fantastic to be here, Ben. Yeah, we've been busy, so it's great to catch up when you have lots of news to discuss. So
Absolutely. So we'll be
excited.
we'll be touching on that a lot today, but maybe just for the listeners that aren't completely up to speed on the story, maybe you can just give us sort of a high level 3 to 5 minute overview of the company, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty after that.
Sure. Happy to do so. At Capitan Silver, we are working on exploring and developing the Cruz de Plata Silver Project, high-grade silver project in Durango, Mexico. That is located right in the heart of the silver belt of the country, where 80% of the silver is produced between the states of Zacatecas and Chihuahua. And we're right in the middle of it with a great location that logistically is very favorable, and that myself and our team knows very well because we've worked there in the past. And we have that team is all ex-Argonaut. We put 3 mines into production on time, on budget in the past, so we have the track record, the knowledge of the area. Not only on just the exploration side, but like I said, putting things into production and operating them. So we have that capacity. We are actively drilling currently at the project, mostly on our Jesus Maria silver trend. We've been announcing the drill results of that. Currently, our work, our drill program is 15,000 meters programmed. We've drilled 2/3 of that, so about 10,000 meters, but we've only announced 5,000 meters of those, so we have plenty of results to report. And we'll get into the detail, but that's been growing the Jesus Maria silver zone. On top of that, we recently consolidated the property. We'd love to get more into the detail of that because we also expanded the system, not just the how much area we cover, and all of this in a company where we have been working on a disciplined approach on our share structure, making sure that the benefits will be translated to our investors. So we've kept a very tight share structure, very tightly held as well in long-term hands, with great quality shareholders, no warrants at the moment, and royalties contracted to be removed.
Amazing, and a lot of things there pique my interest, which we'll get into, but no warrants, lots of momentum for the company. You know, those things can often be an overhang on
Yeah.
a lot of these smaller cap explorers. So it's great that you guys have been able to keep that cap structure intact. So
Yeah.
diving into a few things, and you mentioned this a moment ago, but maybe this can set up the discussion we'll have in a moment. But consolidating the land in August, the LOI you had on that land consolidation turned definitive. Can you just touch on this land consolidation, what it means for the company, and then maybe we can actually pivot into the royalties as well.
Sure. That was very, very important for us. Like I said, it was not only just adding land, it was land that had very clear targets on it. We had been working on understanding that geology, obviously, since way before we were able to finish that acquisition. In summary, we don't have a map to point at right now, but in summary, what I would tell you is we started with a high-grade silver trend, which we now call the Jesus Maria silver trend, that we had presented to be about 2.5 kilometers in strike length, with a number of subparallel veins. And that came to a cumulative of about 7 kilometers of cumulative veins. With the new acquisition of the property, we were able not only to extend the Jesus Maria trend an additional 1.2 kilometers to the east, so for a total of 3.7 now. But we also realized that this mineralization was hosted right at the contact of sediments and an intrusive body to the north. And now we've been able to follow that mineralization with our mapping and sampling to the west and to the north of that intrusive body. And it's all now within our property. So that basically what it does is it triples our targets. So from that cumulative of 7 kilometers we talked about to about 20. And that includes also some structures with mineralization that we're seeing within the intrusive itself. And it also includes a new target for disseminated gold similar with the same geology that we're seeing at the Capitan Hill oxide gold deposit. We're seeing on the east side of the property at the El Tubo Hill. So that's an early stage target, but it's got the same geology as Capitan. So in summary, we went from a high-grade silver trend to a full system that now gives us multiple new targets that we have to test. We're currently drilling on the Jesus Maria trend only, but we are already working on the permitting to drill the rest of the targets, and we will be flying geophysical aerial geophysical survey to also get full coverage on the newly consolidated property.
Amazing. And I think from an investor standpoint, it's obviously critical to consolidate that land, put it together, have it all under one roof, where ultimately you can explore all of the land. You're not bumping up against a border and hoping and wishing you could get into that. So certainly looking forward to you guys exploring that geophysical survey, as you just mentioned. We can touch on it a little bit as well when it comes to the exploration campaign that's going on right now. But staying on more holistically, can you just touch on the royalties that exist on the property, what you guys have done over the last year to firm some of those up, and yeah, just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, there was one big royalty in the property. We've completely removed that one. That was with one of the original owners of the company. That's gone. I think we announced that in August as well. And what remains is a couple of small royalties on specific parts of the property. That one is to Riverside for 1%, and we can buy that at any time for 250,000. The other one is to Fresnillo for the first concession that we got from them. 1%, we can buy that for $1 million US at any time in a 10-year period after we finish the acquisition of that original property. So that's basically all royalties contracted out to be removed for nominal amounts.
Amazing, amazing. Again, building that story. Um, So then, yeah, moving on, I guess you mentioned in the intro there, no warrants outstanding. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you did issue some warrants in a financing earlier in the year, meaning all of those warrants have been exercised, and that brought in a good amount of cash. So could you just touch on the warrants, the exercising of those, how much cash that brought in, and then maybe just on the raise as well? You guys obviously have topped up the till quite well, and the current program is fully funded.
Sure. Yeah, this is the only time we've had a warrant in a raise, and like you said, that's been exercised, so we are warrant free. I think it was in July. Yes, in July that all of the warrants got exercised from our last raise. That brought in an additional 6.6 million Canadian into the treasury.
Amazing.
Back then, yes.
Amazing. And I do remember meeting with you guys a few years ago, and you were very firm on not issuing warrants, and having this lid on the stock, and in a market that wasn't so favorable for small explorers, you were able to keep your share count quite low, all things considered, especially compared to your peers. So maybe you can just touch on the cap table while we're on it, and then we'll get into the program in a second here.
Yeah, we've kept it very tight. We are currently at 114 million shares issued, 120 fully diluted, no warrants. Our top three holders, which are Jupiter, Gold and Silver Fund, Michael Gentili, and Constraplan, account for just under 40% of the total holding. So it's very well held, very tightly held. And I think in comparison with our peer group, especially when you consider that there have been a lot of share consolidations in many of the companies, and you unroll that, we are about a quarter of the shares outstanding of the competition. So
Amazing.
we have been very diligent to keep it tight. Like you said, that took some tough decisions in some tough times. That included the tough decision of not drilling in the years where we knew we're not going to get any value for it, but instead to focus on what was going to create more of an upside for us, and that was tying up the property, cleaning up the royalties, and not destroying our share structure in the process.
Hmm. Amazing. And it makes a lot of sense. You guys have been rewarded for that over the last 6, 12 months. The stock has done really well. Your access to capital has gotten so much better, and really it's off to the races. So with that, maybe you can talk about the current exploration program, give us sort of a high level overview of what that program looks like, and then we can get into some of the results that you guys have been reporting lately and even this morning's press release.
Sure. Well, we originally announced 10,000 meters. That has since been increased to 15,000. We're fully funded for that. We have completed about 10,000 of those meters to date. All of them in the Jesus Maria trend, with the exception of the 1.2 kilometers to the east, which we still have to permit as we just acquire that from Fresnillo. The purpose of this program was to do as many shallow holes as we could do quickly and cost efficiently. So we're maximizing our meters here by doing shallow holes and by doing them reverse circulation. Because the purpose here is to fill the large gaps we have in our long section. Remember, we have an outcropping body of the mineralization. We have it all mapped and sampled across its strike length. So we know that mineralization is there. It's a matter of drilling it and starting to see, what it does really underground. And so we're not going to be drilling anything deep right now. Our purpose again is to drill shallow, quickly, and cost efficiently. We have only released a third of those meters, so about 5,000 meters from the program. We have another third in the lab waiting to complete assays, and about another third that's pending to be drilled. We're currently drilling right now. And we've had 3 press releases on those results. That those 5,000 meters have been spread out in 3 releases. Each one of them has had a stellar hole. Each one of them has expanded the mineralization. Each one of them has found new zones of mineralizations that we weren't quite expecting, both to the north and to the south of Jesus Maria. And when you look at our geological map, you see several parallel zones, but these new ones that we're finding are in addition to those that we had mapped and sampled before. So basically, what we've been finding is more as we've been
Mhm.
drilling on this trend along strike in Jesus Maria. We're finding new high-grade zones. We're finding new structures that we'll have to follow up on with further drilling. And we're confirming that this is a very robust mineralized system that still has a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's interesting and it makes sense. You're drilling a lot of holes quickly, shallow, cost-effective way to explore the large land package that you have. And yet you're still hitting some very high grade silver intercepts. Even just this morning, I've got some numbers in front of me. over 1,700 grams per ton silver equivalent at over 1.5 meters. That hole was close and in proximity to a hole you had hit a month or two ago, number 12, which was over 2,600 grams per ton. So some serious grades, but still close to surface. And I know that some of these high grade silver peers down in Mexico, a lot of their deposits are very deep, very costly to drill and explore. But you
Yeah.
guys, with what you have so far, a lot of this stuff is very close to surface. And again, you haven't tested them at depth, but as of right now, there's no indication that they don't exist at depth. Um, so maybe just you can expand on a little bit more specifically into the results that you reported today, the importance of this mineralization extending, and I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. Well, this press release, the highlight hole follows up on hole 12, which was our first press release on the current drill program. It's an extension to the east from hole 12. It's finding not only similar grades to hole 12, but we're also seeing broad zones of mineralization. So if you go through the table, there, I encourage everybody to go and see the detail, but you'll see that there are multiple hits on the hole, not just the one that we have on the highlights. And oftentimes what we found is that we have that core of the plus kilo grade, but then that's within 10 to 20 meters of still pretty high grade, which it puts a lot of volume on the body of mineralization that we're drilling. So this replicates in some way the results we had in hole 12 and in hole 20, which is a little further north. Hole 20 is the extension a little further east to the zone, but we've seen a little bit of displacement by a fault that we call the Peñoles fault. So that's telling us that on that other side of the fault, we continue to have this body of mineralization in these grades. But this hole that we announced today is a little closer to 12, but again in that area, still confirming that there's extension and continuity on the high grades and the overall mineralized zone in general. One thing we have been suspecting even since the previous press release, as we started seeing these results, is to that this Peñoles fault area might have these broader zones of mineralization. We were already started to see that in some of the previous holes, and that's definitely what we're seeing in hole 26 as well that we released today. So
Mm-hmm.
again, in summary, it's continuity, it's replication of the high grades, it's finding broader zones of mineralization that obviously will need to be followed up on, and it continues to get larger as we put more drill holes in it.
Right. And I guess maybe on what's coming, you mentioned 5,000 meters roughly of assays already in the lab pending. Um, those coming through, and then another 5,000 meters of drilling. So where is these next 2/3, I guess, of drilling focused, and what can investors look forward to?
They're going to continue to be concentrated in that Jesus Maria trend. If you look at our the long section that we've been using in our project, that there's a gap of mineralization. We are closing that towards the first drill holes that we had further east. That's where the majority of the holes are going to be focused on, and mainly on the Jesus Maria vein trend. We might in this last 5,000 or so put a few others in the other subparallel zones. Maybe go a little deeper, but still pretty shallow drilling, following up on some of the results. But it's going to be in that same area to connect the
Mhm.
entire strike length of that initial 2.5 kilometer strike length that we had defined. And at a later date, in a further drill program, once we permit the other targets, we'll start getting into that.
Right, right. And I guess that actually does lead into, you mentioned earlier with the land consolidation. tripling the amount of targets that you have access to. Um, can you talk about the geophysical survey that's ongoing and what the plan is there?
Yes, that's been started. We have contracted a company to do that. We're going through all the logistics right now to fly it as soon as possible. Obviously, since we now have a larger land position, we have many targets to cover. And while we have pretty good mapping and sampling, you also want additional data that's going to help you target your next drill holes, your next campaign of drill holes. And also because this is going to be not just a surface survey, but it's going to be a deep penetrating survey. It's going to give us more, let's say, more data and validation on what our model is for the entire system. What we have in mind is that the source of the mineralization is somewhere underneath that intrusive. It's coming through the fractures, through the intrusive, and then into the sediments, forming the high-grade silver body. And then further away at the contact with the volcanics forms the disseminated gold. So with all that concept in mind, which being a much bigger concept, you're also curious about what's underneath, what's the depth. While what we have at surface is fantastic, and we're very excited about it. It's very useful that this geophysical survey is also going to go deep and give us more ideas for targeting now what is a full system and not just a silver trend.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And certainly looking forward to seeing what that looks like to show the potential scale of this system, which already
Yeah.
is quite large. And then Capitan Hill Gold Deposit, can you just touch on what that is? And then there are some updates coming, hopefully within the next couple months here.
Yes. So Capitan Hill, this is where the company takes its name, by the way, from Capitan Hill. That's a feature in the topographic feature in the property. That's the area where we have a disseminated oxide gold deposit. There is a resource there from 2015 that anybody could review, but it's just over 300,000 ounces of gold. It's an inferred resource at 0.46 grams per ton gold grade. When we started the company in late 2020, we had not consolidated the silver trend yet. So we saw a lot of similarities between Capitan Hill and El Castillo and San Agustin, which we explored and mined with Argonaut in the past. So we decided to go in there first and expand that mineralization. And we were successful in doing that. We published all those results back then in 2020, 2021. Some really fantastic intercepts of mineralization. This is a broad zone of mineralization. It may be low grade, but the zone of the mineralization is very continuous, meaning you potentially have very low waste or a very low strip ratio. It comes right to surface. Oxidation is deep. And with the drilling we expanded it both on strike and down dip. So there will be definitely an increase there that we expect. We'll see what we get to. It's going to be different from the previous resource, which was a global resource 10 years ago. Now it has to be an in-pit resource estimation because the practice has changed. So global resources are not done anymore. But still, because it's all very close to surface and the mineralization is very continuous, we expect that in-pit estimation to capture most of what we've outlined at Capitan Hill.
Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the number was 18,000 meters you had drilled since the last resource update.
We added 12,000. The total was 18,000 meters.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
So a
close to
substantial
19.
amount of drilling.
Yes, the original resource was done on just under 7,000 meters of drilling, all very close to surface. Very few drill holes were a little deeper than that. So we added an additional roughly 12,000. I think it's going to be just under 19,000 meters, expanding it both on strike, down dip. And we also found a new zone that we call the hanging wall zone. So the original resource had what we now call the main zone, and then we found another body of mineralization on top of that called the hanging wall zone. So it's grown. We obviously we're excited about to see how the new resource estimate comes out. The gold deposit is not something we talk a lot in recent days because our focus really is the silver, high grade silver underground, and we believe that that's where the big price is, and we're really excited how this has been growing. But we have already drilled this out. It's right
Hmm.
next to our silver deposit. Some investors have wanted to see, what value we generated through that drilling, and in the end, it's just going to bring additional value to Cruz de Plata and optionality to the project. That could even be helpful to as you design later on mining operation. Will give you more optionality to get an operation started.
Yeah, yeah. It certainly doesn't hurt and doesn't detract from the high grade silver focus, but definitely can be a supporter. And you put that money into the ground already. We may as well see the fruit that it yielded over the next few months when that does come out. Um, and I guess on the open pit side of things, there was some news. I think it was on the 7th. Silver Tiger down in Mexico received their open pit mining approval, which open pit mines were not approved for quite some time. And so maybe you can just touch on maybe the political landscape, what that means going forward. In my view, it's quite positive. But of course, I'll let you talk about it.
Obviously, is fantastic news. I think when I've been asked about the subject, I've always said that it is my belief that the open pits would get permitted. It's a very nice surprise because I didn't expect anything this year. My forecast was that we might start seeing them from 2026 on. So to see one earlier than that is definitely very positive. I think after this long period of permits being pretty much at a standstill is great evidence that mining can move forward in Mexico. It's more assurance to people that open pits are not banned. Which, well, is a fact. People do get nervous about it, and this really, makes them feel comfortable that an open pit operation, or for that matter, even an underground operation, is
Hmm.
possible. It's very positive for the permitting in general in Mexico. Obviously, the government has said that they're going to be very careful in reviewing all the environmental compliance and the merits of each project, which nobody is against. We're all very much in favor of that. So, this is just great news. We're very happy to hear that Silver Tiger got their permits.
Hmm.
That they're
Hmm.
not the only
No.
one. I would add recently there's been other news on permits, maybe not as high profile as this one yet, but we've heard about a pilot test being approved recently in Sonora. Some other things there in terms of expansions, etc. It's moving. We've been monitoring this for a long time, and through the Chamber of Mines and other associations, and we know that the permitting has been moving since early in the year, but this is perhaps more recently the one that has caught the most attention.
Hmm. Hmm. No, that's certainly good to hear, and could settle some stomachs from an international investment standpoint, for people at least that are not as tied to the environment like yourself and even myself. Um, so with that, Alberto, I think we've got a great overview of everything that's gone on over the last 12 months, everything that's coming, lots of drill results as part of this program still to come, Capitan resource update in the not too distant future, geophysical survey. You mentioned no warrants, a bunch of cash came in from that. And obviously the land consolidation and whatnot, which is a couple months old, but still important for the development of the story. Was there anything else that you wanted to leave investors with today?
Yeah, one thing that we also announced recently are some great additions to the team.
Right.
So obviously we as we are advancing and getting busier and obviously demonstrating that this is a great project, we need to expand the team. So that includes a new board member, Graham Scott, a great new addition to the board, a new vice president of exploration. Now that we are full on drilling and expanding our exploration efforts, Marky Dechek, who has been our QP since the beginning, is now the VPX. But we've also brought not only some exploration muscle, but some development operations muscle early on. So we added Israel Tolano and Xochitl Valenzuela, both of who work with the team at Argonaut. Israel is a great project builder and mine operator. I would rank him at the top there in Mexico. Xochitl as well, she is a fantastic resource estimator and mine planner. She's of course very much part of the efforts right now in the resource estimation of Capitan Hill. But we really want to start looking at this as something we want to build. It may be early in the resource construction process, particularly for the silver, but we truly believe we have a great project, and we don't want to wait to start looking at what we will need to make this a reality.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, it makes a lot of sense. And as the company legitimizes itself, you've got to legitimize yourself as a team as well, and get ahead of that. So great, fantastic, Alberto. Thank you for the time today, walking myself and the viewers through the story and all of the updates. Lots to come, even in the next month and a half of 2025, but even into Q1 and Q2 of next year. Certainly looking forward to seeing all the drill results to come. For our followers, if you haven't seen our research on Capitan, you can find it on our website at atriumresearch.ca. And again, Alberto, thanks for the time today.
Thank you very much, Ben. My pleasure.